I should note that Zaria helped out and edited this video. Because of how much editorializing she decided to do, the context that the editing is hers is important. Now please, enjoy. Look, I'm a simple girl with simple needs. I've got my stylistically out there, thematically dense takedown of the Japanese theater system in Revue Starlight. Check out my live reactions to it with Zaria. I've got my tense character-driven sports series with an effective dramatic narrative in Hanebado. And I've even got not one, but 2 over-the-top weird comedies that consistently get the laughs in Chio-chan and Jashin-chan Dropkick, the latter of which also has some incredibly brutal slapstick humor and brilliant fourth wall breaks. Sometimes though, I just need some beaches, some bitches, and some booty. This is terrible, someone please, stop me. Oh god, I'm gonna make this the title too, I'm so sorry. And of course, I also need some lesbians. Which, I mean, all 4 of those other shows also have that, but I could always use some more, you know? In this installment of Pedantic Romantic Tells You a Show is Pretty Good, I'm gonna tell you why Harukana Receive is pretty good. The most immediately noticeable aspect of this series is, of course, these girls being cute and attractive, so we'll start with a handful of interesting elements there. While the characters here aren't quite as built as they are in Hanebado, which makes sense given that some of those characters were competing in Olympic tryouts, there's an amount of muscle on them that was pleasantly surprising once I started the series. These girls are active and fit, and you can tell. And that is a much appreciated break from the character design norm. This musculature isn't the only interesting and more unique aspect of these designs either. We've of course got the usual shapely beachbody characters, and a girl who follows more of a loli design sense, but there's also Narumi, another flat-chested girl who isn't particularly cutesy and youthful, instead possessing a very toned body and pointier, harsher features than the rest of the characters. Unlike those other designs, which focus in on a particular appeal, be it shapeliness or a petite girliness, Narumi's design is a mix of traits, a honed, sharp maturity without the accompanying curves and voluptuous womanliness. But, of course, those designs have a darker, more carnal purpose than mere aesthetic appreciation. Fanservice. Fanservice can be a tricky line, because on one side of it there's the part of my brain that sees myself in a given female character and is made uncomfortable by proxy if they're leered at, but the lesbian half will in many cases still think, girl, hot. It can be tough to reconcile those, to decouple attractive characters from the gross systems and tendencies that often form the context they are grounded in. All of this insecurity airing is for the purpose of saying that I don't get that ambivalence with Harukana Receive nearly as much as with many other series. The show is gay enough that when a butt gets complimented, it feels less like a performance for the sake of the presumed straight male audience as many comments like this in anime do, and more like genuine flirtatiousness between very gay, quite attractive girls. Because of the nature of the game, a lot of neutral shots that legitimately best show the action show off the butts, because the camera is behind the girls and they've got this accurate crouched stance. The camera doesn't have to contort itself to show the characters in an attractive manner, and those occasional more gratuitous ass shots that are less explained by practicality are the most eye-rolling instances of fanservice for me that the show has. In fact, some of the most sexy scenes are just those shots of the girls showing off their athletic prowess and thus their musculature. These scenes don't have to be framed in a particularly sexual manner to be hot. And before you object to that line of thinking, allow me to remind you of what was unquestionably the most arousing scene in all of anime in 2016. Enhancing this fun experience is the really strong soundtrack by Rasmus Faber. He's the guy who's done those jazz anime cover albums, along with the OST for Asterisk War that ended up being just about the only point of praise Digi had for the series. Here, he nails the tone you'd want perfectly, imbuing what could have just been generic sports action-y music with a really strong tropical flavor, driven by extremely lively percussion that mixes in a bunch of distinctive instrumentation like steel drums. All the way back when the PV for this series dropped, the musical quality on display was getting me excited for the series, and it does not disappoint. Some above-average fan service and fun music wouldn't really be enough to keep me watching on its own though, so that's where the legitimately solid degree of character depth the series possesses comes into play. Throughout the opening episodes, there's little moments of discomfort dispersed throughout the summer fun, hints at a raw spot for some of these characters that's been chafed at by an abrasive personal history. As we come to learn when Ayase gives the incredibly blunt advice to be careful about partnering up with Kanata because she just isn't cut out for this game, Kanata and Narumi used to be beach volleyball partners. That status of partner having a lot of gay subtext to it as well. As time went on, though, it became apparent that Kanata was quite short, a notable disadvantage in the sport, and so she not unjustifiably started to feel like she was dragging Narumi down, putting a limit on her potential. She apparently ran away from Narumi, whose ascension to high school champion with her new partner only confirmed Kanata's worst fears about her own limitations. This doesn't just provide good material for these early episodes, though, it also sets up intrigue for what will come later, and so builds excitement to keep watching. Narumi is clearly really hung up on how things all went down still, just as Kanata is, so one has to question her own role in things. Did she really just let Kanata make that judgment of herself and walk away? They were clearly very important to each other, so why didn't Narumi insist that Kanata wasn't a burden, that she enjoyed playing with her, and that she'd deal with whatever challenges arose together with her in service of that relationship? It seems like she may have been held back from actively opposing Kanata's decision, voicing some faith in and support of her, because she had a feeling Kanata was a burden. She wouldn't have asserted that herself, of course, but it would have been all too easy to rationalize things by saying, well, she's decided she wants to leave, it's not my place to stop her. Kanata has some very deep and real hang-ups over this, issues with trusting people born from what seems like a feeling of abandonment. Shouldn't her partner have reassured her in that moment, insisted she was wrong when she said she was worthless instead of expressing tacit agreement? And in turn, all of that history feeds into her relationship with Haruka, provides a context in which Haruka's kindness and sincere desire to play with Kanata isn't some generic, relatively shallow anime friendship, but a powerful extension of empathy and relief. It means a lot to Kanata to have someone accept her as a volleyball partner for who she is, and the weight of that meaning is conveyed to us audience members with a whole lot of resonance and heart. There's also a bit of a question mark hanging over Ayase. She seems ready to assure Narumi that she did absolutely nothing wrong in regards to her handling of the situation with Kanata, which does make sense from her perspective of getting to be with Narumi because Kanata left, but I can't help feel like this style of comforting Narumi, this unhealthy ignoring of the issue instead of seeking closure on it, is something that will come up and have to be confronted in the future. That is some rough and resonant material, especially for me personally. My partner is in the same sport that I am, and while it isn't a team game like beach volleyball, it is still one that is at least somewhat competitive, and one where our mutual successes matter. When I see Zaria putting out weekly videos for months on end while developing her long-form project steadily alongside those uploads, when I see her with a channel that is, yes, smaller because she started more recently, but overall healthier and growing more than my own, there are serious concerns about if I'm living up to her standard or dragging us as a pair down through failing to do so. Our mutual success here matters in the same way that it does for most romantic relationships more generally. YouTube is, as of right now, our prospective career path. Any person in this position has to worry about if they're carrying their weight and if they can contribute towards sufficiently supporting their family. And I think that's a very strong point of broad thematic resonance that Harukana Receive possesses. Most of us will have to grapple with this stuff, and to see it explored and given some insight on by a series about girls in bikinis showing off their big butts is pretty remarkable. It's just made all the more impactful to me personally because that dynamic of doing the same thing, of having the same standards to compare yourself to, is also at play with my particular relationship. Because of how hard the series leans into these volleyball partners as partners in more than just sport, going so far as to refer to Narumi as Kanata's ex, it actively draws that comparison to romantic relationships itself, and is legitimately one of the series that's got the most interesting stuff to say this season because of it. Once again, thank you so much to Zaria for handling the editing on this. It was a big help here. I'll be moving in 3 days now? Jesus Christ. Okay. I'll be moving in 3 days now, and I'm preparing for that, so Her help in getting these videos out before the end of the month here is much appreciated. I helped out her and edited a few minutes of her recent video, so you can go check that out. It's the video on spreading misinformation about anime stuff. It's good stuff. If you would be so kind to help out with that move that's upcoming, coast to coast, Patreon support is of course much appreciated, and it's certainly appreciated from Psyker, Carkeys, Mathways97, Jonathan Conley, Skylar Morrow, Tyler Monk, Sakamoto Mio, Teenshow37, Josh Grant, Lord Liquid Bacon III, Stella Luna, Elaine Aldfelt, Darian Day Sotel, David McCown, Kieran Rice, Jort Dog, Matt Bekelder, Smokeweed Sephiroth 420, J-Man 4747, Katie M. Lindblad, and everyone else who's supporting me on there. Thank you so much.